Hello and welcome to the Dream Team Professor podcast. My name is Scott, and in this episode, we're looking at the top players to target in Gameweek 11 Sun Dream Team. It's a single game week, and we've got a later deadline this week of 1:30 p.m. Myself and the guys at the Dream Team Tonic podcast will be doing a deadline stream 12:30 till 1:30, all the way through till the deadline ahead of the 3 p.m. kickoffs. So don't miss that, but you've got a few extra hours in bed ahead of this deadline on Saturday. So like I said, just a single game week this week. The 3 p.m.s, Brentford versus Bournemouth, Crystal Palace versus Fulham, West Ham versus Everton, and Wolves versus Southampton. So thrilling stuff, but it could be a week that we go for some more differentials where we normally target the teams that have got two fixtures playing in Europe. There's a few more players that we can target from other teams like Wolves, like Brentford. So we're going to go through them in this episode today. But looking at the teams to target straight away, we've got the ffstuff.co.uk fixture ticker. Go and check out ffstuff.co.uk. Everything on there is free to use. It's a really, really handy tool. I've got their fixture ticker here, and I've just ticked a few of the teams that I'm going to talk about in this episode. But there are more that you could look to target, but these are the ones that I really think that if I was going for players this week, these would be the guys that I would look towards. So, single game week, Man City first. No surprise, really. But 3 losses on the bounce, and they're away at Brighton. So, it isn't the best fixture. Arsenal, again, bit iffy form. So, away at Chelsea, hard fixture. And then off the back of a loss, back-to-back losses now, actually, with Inter and Newcastle. No wins in their last 3 Premier League games. So my side's struggling a little bit, but we will speak about them still. Liverpool, absolutely flying at the minute. So 12 matches unbeaten since their loss to Forest earlier in the season, with only 1 draw in that time. So Liverpool looking like the informed team at the moment, but they have got a tough match against Aston Villa at home. So we're going to target Liverpool. Man United. So it's Ruud's final game in charge as sort of interim manager before Amorim takes over. And they are at home to a struggling Leicester. But I've watched Man United tonight. I've stayed up and watched them ahead of this. I thought we'll wait until all of the European matches are done to get the full picture. And quite honestly, I wish that I didn't. Really, really poor performance this evening in the Europa League. But they did get the job done. But yeah, I could have done without putting myself through that one. But we will speak about them nonetheless, because the United do have some good fixtures coming up. Newcastle and Villa. I'm going to pass on these for this episode. Newcastle are away to Forest, and Forest have been pretty good this season. Newcastle did just beat my side, so they are doing okay. Isak has 3 goals in 3 if you want to go there. But I just don't think this is the best fixture to target. So I'm going to leave them out. We can't target everyone. Aston Villa, again, a lot of us have got Villa players because they've been in Europe, because they've got some cheap players as well to target. But just this away match at Anfield, I think is as tough as it gets at the minute. So I'm not going to speak about Villa in this episode. But by all means, if you've got questions about teams that I'm not speaking about, leave it in the comments below, and I'll get back to you about them. But yeah, I don't think it's a problem really holding your Villa players for this week. I definitely wouldn't be transferring in anymore. Spurs are a really attractive team to target this week. So just scored 4 against Villa, who I've just mentioned. And they've put 3 past City in the cup at home. So Spurs on a nice little run here. Did lose to Galatasaray this evening, but still scoring goals. They now face the 3rd bottom team in the Premier League in Ipswich at home. They've conceded the 2nd most goals this season in the Premier League as well. So I think this looks like a prime fixture to target Spurs. So this is going to be an interesting bit. Chelsea, I'm going to leave out. So they're home to Arsenal. I don't think it's a fixture to really target. Holding Palmer is probably going to depend on late injury news. So he is a doubt, but I kind of think they're playing Arteta at his own game here with Palmer. I think he's going to be okay, but we'll have to wait. Listen to press conferences and all that, but I'm not going to target Chelsea in this fixture, in this round of fixtures. West Ham, again, Everton home is a nice fixture, but not in the best form themselves. We're leaving them out. Wolves will be in this episode, so probably just one player. You can probably guess. You've probably seen the thumbnail, but Wolves have got a really nice fixture at home to Southampton, and then they've got nice fixtures long term. So we're going to target Wolves. And then Brentford. Many of you might still be holding on to Brian Mbuemo. He's been brilliant this season, and they've also got a nice run of fixtures. So they'll be in the targets. We'll go through these teams one by one, looking at the best players to target. I'll also later on look at captaincy because it's a really open week with quite a few options to choose from. And then later in the episode, I'll also be doing my team update and transfer thoughts because I've just got into the top 50 in the world this week. So doing really, really well. So looking at the fixture ticker a little bit longer. So the next 3 game weeks. So this game week is a Premier League single. We're going to speak a lot about that, obviously. Then it's an international break between game week 11 and game week 12. So we've got another big gap, but I think this is one of the last ones now for quite a while. And so we'll be right into the thick of it when we come back. Game week 12, when we come back, is a European double game week. There's not too many European double game weeks left for the time being, but game week 12 is going to be one of them. And then game week 13 is a Premier League double for all. So this is one that I've got my eye on. People like Palmer are going to be back in the mix as long as he is fit to play. But it could also be one to use your boosters in where there's a massive pool of players to choose from and there'll be a lot less rotation than normal. So I really like the look of game week 13. If you do look at how many fixtures each team's going to play over these next 3 game weeks, it also isn't that bad for the non-European side. So the European teams will play 5 games. The non-European sides will play 4. But of course, if your European player doesn't play in one of the European games, they'll be just as good for appearances as a Premier League player only who's not in Europe. So this could be a little period where we would be okay to choose the players that are playing just in the Premier League. Standouts, City, mixed fixture difficulty here. So Brighton away, double game week of Tottenham and Feyenoord. I mean, Tottenham have had their number quite a bit recently. And in game week 13, Liverpool away, Forest at home. So I think that could be a tricky period of fixtures for City. Arsenal, it does get better after Chelsea. So Chelsea away, obviously horrible. Nottingham Forest and Sporting in game week 12. Now, I was looking at that as quite a nice run of fixtures, but actually Forest have been really good and Sporting have just battered Man City. So maybe 12 isn't as good. It's then West Ham away and Man United at home. Liverpool, quite a tough run as well, but really, really good form. Villa at home. Southampton away is really nice, but then it's Real Madrid, Man City, and Newcastle away. So it does get tough for Liverpool. We'll see what they're made of there. But there's been a few tests already where I've said that and they've got through it. So Man United, really great run. And they'll have their new manager starting after the international break, which will see them playing Ipswich, Bodo Glimt, Everton, and then away at Arsenal. Chelsea. Now, most of us have not been targeting Chelsea because of the European fixtures, apart from Palmer. But when we come back, there'll be one more European round. They'll have Leicester away and then a European fixture. But then it's a double game week in 13 of Villa at home and Southampton away. Now, that is one that I think I'm going to want Palmer back in for. So a lot of us should maybe have a plan in mind how to get him if we don't have him already. Wolves, longer term, looking quite good. Southampton home, Fulham away. And then that double is going to be Bournemouth at home and Everton away. So it's looking pretty good for Wolves, but they are obviously right down the bottom of the league. So we are just hoping that with the fixtures turning nice, their performances will improve. And then Villa and Spurs, I think they've both got quite tough fixtures longer term. So Villa, obviously Liverpool away, Crystal Palace at home, but that's paired with Juventus at home, which is going to be a really hard Champions League game. It's then Chelsea away off the back of that, and then Brentford at home in that double. So I think Villa's fixtures are starting to look pretty tough now. Spurs as well. Ipswich at home obviously is a fantastic fixture this week. But then it's City away, Roma at home. Really tough. Fulham at home, Bournemouth away in game week 13. Now, looks quite nice on the ticker, but we've seen Bournemouth away as a really hard fixture, and Fulham have been pretty good this season as well. Now we head over to 11afire.com. So they've got a model with predicted goals and predicted clean sheets. Now for goals this week, Spurs lead the way at 2.71 for the most goals scored. I think they're going to be a big team to target against Ipswich, but the only thing is knowing who's going to score the goals because they've got a lot of options. Solanke up top is obviously finding some form. They've got Son, Kulusevski's been doing okay. Maddison's been all right. And even Brennan Johnson's been really good for scoring goals this season. So We'll find out later who I think will be the best player to target from Spurs, but the projections have got them as the most goals in game week 11. Liverpool are second, 2.38. Now, this surprised me a little bit because obviously Villa is a pretty tough fixture, but Liverpool are at home and Villa have just conceded quite a few goals away to Spurs. So maybe that's weighed into it. So Liverpool in second. Man United up in third for their fixture at home to Leicester. But again, not being the most free-flowing attack. So this is based on it being a pretty nice fixture. But from what I saw this evening, not flowing great, Man United. And then Man City, the only other team to be projected to score over 2 goals with 2.01 with that away match against Brighton. So maybe if you're looking for a captaincy pick this week, Spurs, Liverpool, Man United, City are the teams projected to score the most goals. I mentioned Wolves and Cunha, 1.7 or 1.70 for them expected to score at Southampton. Arsenal down in 6th with 1.65 for that tough match against Chelsea. And then Chelsea all the way down 1.19 against the Arsenal defence. Looking at clean sheets this week. So it looks like a quite low probability week. Is that the right way to say it? Low percentages for the clean sheet likelihoods here. And it's actually Spurs, top of the clean sheet projections. I didn't think I'd ever see that. 39% chance of keeping a clean sheet against Ipswich as per the projections. Man United in at second, so 37% chance. Just kept a clean sheet in the Europa League. Then Liverpool, 34%, and City at 32%. We've also got quite a few other teams on 32. West Ham, Wolves, and Arsenal down at 30. But as you can see from some of the other weeks, we sometimes go as high as like sort of 50s, 40s percentages. So yeah, it does seem like a pretty low week for the clean sheets with quite a few big sides playing each other this week. If you do want to check this out, 11of5.com, I find it really handy. And it's especially handy this week where it's just a Premier League single. And this does just do the Premier League matches. I know in Dream Team you get European matches as well. But this week, just a Premier League match. So yeah, it could be one that's quite handy for your planning. Before we move on to the top players to target, if you found this useful so far, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I saw a stat that about 50% of the people that watch these videos aren't subscribed. So if you do hit the subscribe button, it'll get you kept up to date with all the latest Dream Team content that I'm putting out. But we'll go straight on to Spurs. So they face the third bottom side in Ipswich, who have conceded the second most goals in the Premier League. Highest non-penalty XG in the Premier League for Spurs, and then most goals scored in the league as well. So 22 goals in 10 Premier League matches. Up against Ipswich, who have the worst non-penalty XGA, conceded the second most goals, 21 from 10 matches. So it's looking pretty good. A really good attacking side against a really leaky defence. It's what's making Spurs look so attractive this week. And Dom Solanke, we have to talk about him a little bit because I mean, I felt like I suffered earlier in the season taking some players out before Halls. But if you took Solanke out in the past couple of weeks, this one has been a real painful one. So he went 6 games without having a shot on target. And he's looked pretty poor, to be honest with you. He's been involved in the build-up, but not looked that good going forward. But he's hit 29 points this game week. Last Premier League game against Villa, he got 2 goals, 1 assist. 3 shots on target. He's gone and scored in the Europa League as well off of the bench. So he's on 5 goals, 3 assists for the season. And maybe he is entering a bit of a purple patch now. Someone that we might be looking to transfer in for this game week. So Solanke, we can't ignore that he had a bit of a barren spell. But strikers, confidence, it all does play a part. So maybe Solanke could be a decent pick for this game week. He's currently the most transferred in player for the game week as well. We're a fickle bunch on Dream Team. It only takes one good week for us all to go transferring a player straight back in. But he's of interest, just 4 million as well. Typically, I would probably be putting Son above him in a normal scenario. I just think Son's done it year after year after year. We know what to expect with him. We think he's going to have penalties as well. I can't imagine Solanke's going to take pens off Son. It does come at a more expensive price. But the problem with Son is he's had a couple of injuries already this season. He's on 3 goals, 5 assists from 9 games, 9 points against Villa, 3 bonus points, an assist. but he was subbed off in the 56th and he was visibly annoyed about it. But I think it seems like they're just easing him back in. He had a spell of 3 games out. Then he came back and then got 13 points against West Ham with a goal and an assist. But then he had another 3 matches out again. So he definitely has been struggling with something. It seems like they're taking it easy on him. He played like 45 minutes this evening. So it does seem like Angie's being careful with him. Is that enough for you to opt for Solanke instead? Someone that you're probably going to get 90 minutes out of. Typically, I think I'd still prefer to go for Son. But if you're looking to maybe captain a player or something like that, maybe you would feel more comfortable going for Solanke at the moment. It's a tough decision between the two, and budget might decide for you that you have to go Solanke. But overall, I still do think that Son is a better and more reliable pick. Brennan Johnson at 3.8. So he's Spurs' leading goal scorer with 7 goals. Also 3 assists. He got another one this evening. Doing pretty well for attacking returns. 14 shots on target, the same as Solanke. Got his goal against Villa. He had a 6-game scoring streak earlier in the season as well. So he's a bit of a confidence player. So these attacking returns are pretty good for Brennan Johnson. He could be someone that you look to transfer in. But I'm just thinking, if there's 0.2 between him and Solanke, who would I prefer for this week? And I still think it would be Solanke. But I wouldn't be against having a double up of Spurs this week. The only thing to bear in mind is next week it's Manchester City in the Premier League. So if you do load up too many Spurs, you might have to carry some for the City match. Maddison is someone who's trolled me this week. So he was benched for that Aston Villa game, which I kind of saw coming. I had a feeling after, I can't remember what game it was, but we saw him taken off and then replaced, and sort of said he needed more legs in midfield. That sort of was a warning sign for me against Villa, a decent midfield, that maybe he could be benched for these bigger games. So I felt quite smug when I saw that he was benched. Of course, he came off the bench and scored a free kick and a short cameo. So he's actually done pretty well this week. Also started in the Europa League as well, got 4 points with a bonus point. So he's a good pick. If I had him, I would definitely be keeping him for this week. 21 bonus points, 3 goals, 5 assists. But I just don't think I'd bring him in, especially for this game. I think there's better options. Then lastly, the player that's in my team, Kulusevski, 2 goals, 6 assists. He did come on in the game tonight and come away with a big fat 0, which was a little bit disappointing. Picked up a yellow card. But I still think he is very, very good for the price. The only thing I'd say about him, for the price point, I think is a great enabler to hold long term. But if you're bringing a Spurs player in for a big punt on this Ipswich match, I don't think he's the guy. I think he's the guy that you'd want long term to sort of have a cheap slot in your team. But if you really are going for this Ipswich game, I would go for someone a lot more clinical. On to Liverpool next. So, like I said, unbeaten in 12 matches since playing Forest. Really, really good form. Playing really, really good football as well. Salah, he is in most people's team, we've got to admit. But the question with him this week is, do you captain him? Do you go for someone like Solanke? Do you go with Haaland? We'll cover captaincy later. But he's got 22 points this week. He won the captaincy battle up against Haaland. So Salah 22 points, Haaland 6. It is a pretty brutal swing if you did go for Haaland. He's now taken the top spot as the highest scorer on the game. He's got 9 goals, 9 assists. So not only is he productive in front of goal, but he's chipping in nicely for assists, combining with Gakpo, Diaz. Blanked twice in the last 10 games. So if you are considering him for captaincy, he's pretty reliable. There's only been 2 occasions in the last 10 games where he's blanked. One of those occasions was a 19-minute cameo in the Cup. So pretty reliable when it comes to attacking returns if you're not feeling going for a punty option. Diaz, Gakpo. This is a tough one. So I still would struggle to pick them this week in a single game week, just because they do take quite a lot of minutes off each other and have done throughout the season already. However, the Leverkusen 4-0 win for Liverpool threw a bit of a spanner in the works, because I thought that Darwin Núñez would probably start 2 this week with Jota being injured. But they actually played Luis Diaz as the central striker or centre forward. And he only went and got a hat-trick as well. So Diaz in ridiculous form, 24 points this game week. and looked really comfortable playing in that role, I thought. 9 goals, 2 assists for him for the season. The only thing as well with Diaz is we've got an international break approaching, and he has a lot of travel over the international break, and quite often he doesn't find himself on the bench. So that is why I'm a little bit worried about going for, well, Diaz for this single, but then for next week as well. So Southampton away looks great on paper, but there is a chance maybe you miss that one and you get Real Madrid, which there's quite a significant difference in the difficulty in them games. You've got Gakpo as well, 6 goals, 2 assists for the season. He's came with 19 points for the game week, and he scored 4 goals in 3 matches. So both Diaz and Gakpo in really, really nice form. I just think you've got to have a little bit of luck with you if you pick them and you get them for the right sort of moment. So they could both take minutes off each other, but you could end up with both playing really well. And seeing them score 4 against Leverkusen, maybe he does decide to just keep this front three the same with Diaz playing through the middle. Trent, not someone that particularly I would want to target for a home match against Villa, but he has had a 15-point game week. And it didn't quite go the way you'd expect if you see a big return from Trent. So 9 tackles against Brighton made up the bulk of his points in that match. But then he did get an 8th clean sheet in 14 games against Leverkusen. A clean sheet that I really wasn't expecting. And they are looking solid against some of the bigger sides. So I can't blame anyone if they are holding on to Trent. I just still don't think that I'm not tempted to bring him in myself. Someone that is getting a bit of attention is Tsimikas at 2.9. So if you are looking for a budget pick in your defence, he started both the Premier League and the Champions League. So could mean 2 things. He's either now displaced Robertson as first choice. You could look at it that way. Or you could look at it as played twice. And now Robertson's going to come in for the next game. It's hard to say. The signs would say that they're pretty pleased with how he's been doing. He's had loads of tackles. He's had bonus points in each game this week, 19 points overall, 2 big chances created and a shot on target. So it does look a really good one. He is going to get a price rise. I just don't know if it's long term. And with just a single game week this week, you could open yourself up to having like a did not play. It's the only risk. On to Man United. So they had their draw with Chelsea, and then they had their 2-0 win against PAOK or PAOK. But it wasn't a nice watch. Diallo got 2 goals in this one. Again, not someone that many people are going to own. Bruno Fernandes, though, did get an assist in this one, and he's been on red hot form. They've got a match coming up against Leicester at home, and I still would back Man United for these nice run of fixtures, but it just isn't a great watch. That's all I'd say. Maybe just have a look at the points after and don't put yourself through it. Bruno Fernandes, back-to-back hauls now. Taken away tonight because I didn't really have much time to change the notes up, but he had back-to-back hauls, 14 points against Chelsea, 18 points against Leicester in their sort of B side. It had 3 goals in his last 2 games, or those 2 games, and then he got an assist this evening. 5 big chances created, 3 shots on target, and he's also hit bonus in each of his last 3, or we'll extend that to 4 after this evening. So really, really good form from Bruno Fernandes. He seems to have pulled his finger out now that Ten Hag is out the door. So I think Bruno Fernandes, really, really good player to target going forward. Penalties as well. Got that penalty against Chelsea, so it is always a nice bonus to have a penalty taker in your side. I think he's a really, really good pick at this point of the season. Someone who I'm also interested in is Mazraoui, 3.5. So I went for Dalot a couple of weeks ago, and he's been great. But now, looking at the way the points have fallen and the way the points are getting scored, I actually kind of wish I went for Mazraoui. So he's cheaper out of the 2. Dalot at 4.2, Mazraoui at 3.5. But Mazraoui hit maximum bonus in the last game. So he's got 11 bonus for the season. They got 10 points against Chelsea in a game where they conceded. And I think it's fair to say he's probably got less attacking threat, but he's better for bonus and tackles. Joint second highest for bonus, and then the second highest for tackle points. So a really, really good option if you're looking for something a bit cheaper. And I still think Dalot is fine. I'd say Dalot is probably better for the attacking side of things. But he didn't really get forward that much in that Chelsea game. I thought it was kind of because he had to deal with Neto, but he didn't really look that lively this evening. Did sub off early in the 65th, but I don't think it was a concern. I think it was just more down to keeping him fresh for the next game. He's played so many minutes. So 9 points for Dalot. I think both options are fine. And I may even be considering the double up from Man City at the back. But yeah, I might be going a bit crazy. Garnacho, 5 goals, 5 assists. Frustrating against Chelsea. I brought him in this week. He is a constant threat, gets into good positions, but doesn't always get the execution right. 19 shots on target from 15 matches. Started both games under Ruud van Nistelrooy, or started all 3 games now under Ruud van Nistelrooy. I expect him to start again, but he probably is on his way to a price decrease now after the 2-pointer this evening. So a little bit off-putting there. Now for something we don't see very often. Man City with 3 losses in a row. So they're away at Brighton this week, but off the back of a big 4-1 defeat to Sporting, and then that 2-1 loss to Bournemouth as well. I don't think that 4-1 to Sporting was as one-sided as the result makes out. There was 2 pens in there for Sporting and a pen miss for Man City from Haaland as well. But it is a little bit concerning. They haven't looked their usual selves, is fair to say. And we're going to start with Haaland. So has he been as bad as people are making out? So he's had 3 shots on target and a penalty miss against Sporting. Come away with 2 points. I felt in that game, he was pretty unlucky. And I think you would have felt the same if you'd captained him this week. So again, not really happened for him in the Sporting game. But on another day, 3 shots on target, a penalty miss, hitting the crossbar. It could have been more. Then at Southampton, 2 shots on target and hit the post. Again, coming really, really close. And then before that, a 12-pointer against Southampton, which shouldn't be bad, but we were probably banking on a hat-trick or a brace if we were honest with ourselves. So again, 4 shots on target. It could have been much more. So last 3 games, he probably has been quite unlucky, I think. Then before that, a brace, 19 points against Sparta, 5 shots on target. So it is frustrating that he hasn't been getting the points. But I think I'd be more worried if he wasn't getting the chances. The chances have been there, and he just hasn't quite taken them. I think it could be an overreaction. I've seen people saying about taking Haaland out, especially in other fantasy football formats. But I have seen people talking about taking him out and maybe bringing him back. And I would be wary of doing that, to be honest. And I still think we'd be crazy to rule him out of the captaincy argument for this week. So maybe hold your horses on Haaland. And like I said, we'll come to the captaincy in a little while. Foden, I still think he's a decent player to target. 16 points for the game week. On the score sheet against Sporting Lisbon, got a bonus in each match this week. He's had 5 starts in a row, so suggests that things probably are back to normal. Or it could suggest he's going to get benched in the next match. Who knows? But 3 goals, 2 assists, 12 bonus from 13 matches. I'm pretty happy with how Foden's done for me since I brought him in. With City's mids, I think it's a week of just hold on to what you've got. Maybe buy Haaland if you haven't got him. Buy Foden if you haven't got him. We saw Savinho come back in the second match. You've had KDB on the bench. I think he came off for a small amount of minutes in the Sporting match. And then Doku has been waiting to come in as well. So they are slowly getting more options back. And I just think where it's a single game week, there's always a chance that you're just going to get nothing from one of these players, or you're going to get sub appearances. I just don't think this is the game week to really take a chance on those sort of fringe midfielders or more rotation risk midfielders from City. I think likewise with defence as well. So I'm actually considering the possibility of selling Rico Lewis. It hasn't been the best game week for him or City defence in general, really, unless you're Vardiol popping up with goals. I just think he's on. Looks like he's going to get a 0.3 drop, Rico Lewis, this week, and he's been fantastic. So he's definitely not a problem to hold on to. I'm just looking a little bit at the fixtures for Man City. Brighton away, and then Tottenham at home in the first game back. You've also got Liverpool in game week 13. And I know Walker has been pretty rubbish when he's come back recently, but I still think they look more like typical Kyle Walker matches compared to Rico Lewis. And somebody's got to give at the back. That they're really not doing well at the back. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him change it up. Maybe bring back the sort of 4 centre-backs when Diaz and Stones are back. I don't know. I get a feeling that maybe Pep is going to mix something up, and that makes me worry a little bit about Rico Lewis, where he's one of the more inexperienced players, despite him being really good. The only player that I would probably bring in from the defenders is Vardiol, because he's just been so good. Another goal this week against Bournemouth, so I think he's still a buy if you haven't got him. My team, Arsenal. So like I said, away at Chelsea, really, really hard fixture, I think. Looking quite good this season. Back-to-back losses, which is horrible, and no wins in our last 3 Premier League games. It's not great. It's not looking great in a minute. Poor performance again against Inter, with hints of Newcastle. I think it was better than the Newcastle game, but similar problems. No answers for that sort of low block or mid block. Lack of creativity. And we did see that Ødegaard has been on the bench, and he got a short cameo off the bench against Inter. So it's looking up from the creativity side of things. But I'm not certain that he's going to be sort of back starting until after the international break. So I would still be a little bit concerned about Arsenal. Not looked as steady at the back, and definitely not looked as good in attack. Saka, 6.7. If you didn't bring him in last week, I felt like it was a must to get him back in, to be honest. But if you didn't get him back in last week, you're probably not too disappointed. 9 points across 2 games. And I think you could probably look at this Chelsea game and wonder, could I wait one more week? It is always a risk. He's highly owned. But I think Arsenal struggled in both games this week. And Saka as well. 2 shots on target, 1 big chance created, and a bonus point. I don't really remember a chance where I feel like he looked like scoring across the 2 games. He did have a cross that Declan Rice probably could have got onto in the Newcastle match. But other than that, I don't think he's looked that close to returning. Fixtures do improve from Gameweek 12, though. Like I said, Forest and Sporting, then West Ham and Man United, and then Fulham and Monaco, I think it is, in Gameweek 14. So the fixtures do improve massively for Arsenal. They have had a lot of big tests out the way now. So Saka would be on the radar, but maybe if you didn't go there already, you could possibly get away with it. Havertz picked up a nasty head injury. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a doubt for the weekend. It did look pretty bad. He looked in a pretty bad way, but maybe they can just stitch him up. Ødegaard come on for 5 minutes, but like I said, I don't think he's going to start before the international break. Trossard, poor. And then Martinelli done well for points, but I don't think he has had great games, to be honest. I think he came with 10 points. Most of his points in the second game actually came from bonus, from taking left-sided corners while Declan Rice was out with a broken toe. So I wouldn't go there personally with this fixture and Arsenal's form currently. Defence are back to a strong lineup. So it's been Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, and Timber as the back 4 for the previous match against Inter. But I just Chelsea away. I just wouldn't. I would probably wait until game week 12 if you wanted to do it. Wolves, I have only got just one player to target from Wolves. So they are home to Southampton, which looks a really nice fixture for Wolves. But compared to some of the other teams, I still think you do have to consider the level of the team. So when we're bringing in potentially Cunha, I do think you've got to weigh up the other level of players that you can bring in ahead of him. But nonetheless, he has been good. So 4 goals, 1 assist for the season. He's had an assist in the last match against Palace, got 8 points for that. 10 shots on target so far this season. 8 big chances created, 7 bonus points. He's hitting tackles as well, 12 tackles, and a 6.8 average is pretty good. Last season, 14 goals, 8 assists. So we know he's consistent for attack and returns. And 27 bonus. He was up there as one of the best bonus point scoring strikers or attackers in the game. So I do think it's a good option. I do think it's a really nice differential. But yeah, it's just where it's Wolves, I think. 1.7 projected goals. So definitely good. They scored 3 against Brentford, 2 against Palace, and 2 against Brighton. So goals haven't been the problem, actually, when it comes to their results. It's been the other end of the pitch. The only team they've actually failed to score against was Arsenal. So that's a little trophy there for us. But yeah, a decent attack, look good, great player. But it isn't quite for me. And then Brentford. So like I said, many of you have still held on to Mbeumo, who's been fantastic this season. Bournemouth at home. So Bournemouth are a decent side, but not quite as good when they're away from home. 8 goals this season for Mbeumo, and he's actually only 1 goal off his tally for last season. So that is how good Mbeumo has been. 8.8 average points, and he's on penalties as well. Did blank in the last game, but I think we can let him off. He's been that good this season. So Brian Mbeumo still a really, really good option. Gets bonus points as well. Quick look at captaincy for this week. So I'm going to go through a few options that you can choose from. Like I said, there's a big pool of players that you can choose from this week. I think there are plenty of good options. I'm actually struggling to decide who I'm going to go for myself this week. Haven't quite decided that yet. I'm going to put Salah top of the list for now. 9 goals, 9 assists for the season. He's banging form. He's got 9.7 average, 5 bonus points, and 10 double-digit returns from 16 games. So I'm going to put that in the mix here for everyone, how many double-digit returns players have got. Because if you get a captain, you want to chase that haul, don't you, in this sort of single game week. So 10 double-digit returns from 16 is really, really impressive from Salah. Of course, 90-minute man on penalties. And the fixture against Aston Villa at home, I think Salah's already scored against Arsenal. He's a big game player. He scores against top teams. So I still think Salah is a really good option, despite probably having arguably the hardest fixture in this list we're going to go through. Erling Haaland, like I said, obviously people have been quite tough on him recently with some of his disappointing blanks, but let's not forget he's got 14 goals. Second highest scoring player in the game, has been pretty much top the whole season. He's got a 10.7 average, which is the highest out of any of these players here. No bonus points, so that's probably what's a little bit annoying. If he doesn't score goals, he's not really scoring points. He doesn't get assists, he doesn't hit bonus, but when he hits these goals. So 7 double-digit returns from 14 matches. He's had 2 20-plus points hauls as well. A couple of high sort of 18, 19 pointers as well. So really does bang. Penalties, 90 minutes. So it is always a risk to go against him. Brighton away from home as well. They are a team that will come out and play against teams. There's quite a lot of the time, like we saw with Southampton. They sat quite deep. Wolves sat quite deep. There's teams that will sit and frustrate City. But Brighton do like to give you a game. So I don't think we can rule out Haaland as a captaincy option, despite the annoying blanks recently. Solanke has gone from being called Sablanke to now banging in goals this week. 6 goals, 3 assists for the season, 6.6 average, 0 bonus points. But he is the form player at the minute, or of the week at least. Most transferred in, 4 double-digit returns from 14 matches, which is more than I expected. And of course, 120-plus pointer coming this week. Don't think he's going to be on pens. I still think Son is going to be on pens, but maybe Son has been getting subbed off early. Maybe there's a chance of a late penalty and Solanke stepping up. But I think overall we can't really put him in the pen mix. Ipswich at home, though. Out of all these fixtures, you'd probably say this is the perfect combination of a decent attack versus a nice team to play against in Ipswich. Son, like I said, I probably would have put him above Solanke typically, but it's the minutes risk that's sort of on my mind. So he got subbed off early before 60 minutes in the Premier League, and then 45 minutes in Europe. But maybe him getting minutes in Europe is a good sign, because if he was sort of a bit of a doubt, or they were being careful with him, they just wouldn't have given him Europe. So maybe he's on the up, and they're just building up his fitness. 3 goals, 5 assists for the season, and a 7.3 average. So his average points is above Solanke's still. 8 bonus, more routes to points than Solanke typically, but just the 3 double-digit returns from 10 games. Bruno Fernandes, I thought I was going to throw him into the mix because he is in really good form. 3 goals, 5 assists, though, is quite a lot less than some of these other players. I know it's the same as Son, but Son's played a lot less matches. Bruno's played an extra 5. But Bruno has had 9 bonus points. He's on penalties. He's a 90-minute man. I'm just not as sure on the Man United attack compared to like a Liverpool, City, and even Spurs going forward. Cunha, 4 goals, 1 assist, 6.8 average. I know people will go here for the captaincy. And it's a nice differential, just because I don't think I would do it. I like to play a little bit safer. Definitely is still an option. 7 bonus points. I mean, he's got a mixture of goals and assists as well. So Cunha probably has arguably the most route to points out of these players in the list. 4 double-digit returns from 11 as well is pretty good. More than Son, more than Bruno Fernandes and the same as Solanke so far this season. So it could be a good option. And that Southampton fixture at home is a good one. And then Brian Mbeumo, 8 goals, 0 assists for the season, 8.8 average, really high average points here, just behind Salah and Haaland. 6 double-digit returns from 12 matches as well. So half the matches he's played in, he's got double digits on penalties, 90-minute man again. So I think these are some really, really good options. I've heard people ask, should you just play your max captain because there's so many good options? But I still kind of stand by that. I'd like to play that in a double game week. I know this ensures that you get the right captain, but I just think across the two fixtures in a double game week, I just think the difference in points that you could score is going to end up possibly being much more. The swings could be a lot bigger, like we saw with Haaland and Salah this week. If you get it wrong, it can be quite impactful. I think that is a good reason to play it in a double game week. On to my team update. Hit like, subscribe if you haven't already. Last week I was 99th. I just snuck into the top 100 for the week. This week I snuck into the top 50, 46th on the overall leaderboard. Things are going quite nicely for me at the moment. So 138 points for the game week, 1,293 points in total. Yeah, really, really pleased with how things are going. I've not done anything mad. I'm just playing it safe and making what I think are safe moves. It's the way I like to play, trying to make logical moves, not taking many risks early on. I will probably try and turn the dial a little bit later in the season, but for now, happy with how things have been going. Saka didn't deliver for me this week. He was one of my transfers in, and in Maddison, someone that I took out this week, got 12 points. So it's a red for moves made this week. Maddison 12 versus Saka's 9, and Garnacho's 6 versus Palmer 6. Left me on a -3, but my team's done well. Garnacho, I was happy with the decision to bring him in. I got the price rise from him, but just 6 points, probably a little bit disappointing. But Bruno and Dalot, who I brought in the week prior, done really well. 12 points from Dalot, 21 from Bruno Fernandes. In goal, Sells, just, yeah, he's been brilliant. I've had him the whole season. 7 points again for that clean sheet. I am going to have to do something with him soon because the fixtures do turn nasty. So it's Newcastle at home, then Arsenal away. Ipswich at home is nice, but that's paired up in a double game with City away, followed by Man United away, and then Villa. So I think it probably is going to be time to part ways with Sells soon, but he's due a 0.3, so I'm not going to do it this week. Lewis, 1 point, disappointing. He's going to get a drop. Vardiol, 9 points. He's fantastic. Saka, like I said, 9 points. He's going to be in there long term. Bruno, smashing it. Garnacho, and then Foden, 16 points this week. Again, someone I'm going to keep long term. Kulusevski, 7 points. Got those 2 assists in the first fixture. Sorry, not 2 assists. He got the 2 assists in the game before that against City. He got 1 assist against Aston Villa, 7 points. But then the blank against Galatasaray is a bit annoying. But with him, just the price is going to fluctuate. I'm happy at 3.1 million or whatever he's going to move to. Probably just going to keep him. Haaland, 6 points. Disappointing. But I'm glad I didn't captain him for this one. I captained Salah, who got 22, doubled to 44. So overall, a decent week and the captaincy going my way. So what am I thinking transfer-wise for this week? So I'm having a bit of difficulty with it this week. So I quite like my team. I feel like if I'm going to make transfers this week, it's being sort of hypercritical, either going to be just chasing price rises or removing players that I think are going to fall, and then pretty much moving decent player to decent player. I just think it's going to be sideways this week because I'm pretty happy with my team. Sells, Newcastle at home is not terrible. The double City I don't really like for away Brighton, and Lewis is the weak link and getting a price drop, so he could be up for a move. Dalot, happy. Leicester home's great. The same with Bruno and Garnacho, really. Leicester home does look a nice fixture. But Garnacho's someone that I may, if it really comes to it, have to move him out because he's going to get a price drop. But we know how this goes. I've done it so many times this season, taken someone out and then they do well after. Saka, Chelsea, I'm just gonna bear it. I don't think it's a great fixture, but he's a great player. Foden, keep, Kulu keep, Haaland and Salah. They're not going to go anywhere. So it's looking like if I'm going to make moves, which I haven't ruled out rolling the transfer, but if I'm going to do it, I think it's going to be Lewis and Garnacho to make way, probably just because the price decrease. And then with Lewis, I still think there's a slight chance that maybe Walker plays this match. And it'll be annoying to get a did not play in a single. So I'm considering maybe making moves to build budget and just to build budget, really. Build budget and buy players that I think have got a decent fixture. So I'm going to look at, well, actually, one last thing. Any moves that I make, I want to probably try and obviously build budget, but also downgrade the price a little bit. Because in mind, there's some, well, it's a Premier League single, but then there's a Premier League double game week across the horizon. And I know I'm going to want Palmer back for it. And he's expensive. So I need to try and raise some funds with any of these moves I do with a view to get Palmer in quite soon. So Mazraoui, I think he's probably going to come in for Rico Lewis. He's 3.5, so I'm saving 0.5 on that transfer. I've also got 0.5 in the bank currently, so that'd be a nice saving. Maybe move Lewis to Mazraoui. It could backfire. They're both great players, but I'll probably just build a bit of budget with that one. And then again, it feels ultra critical because I would really like to have Garnacho for the Leicester match. And if price rises and budget didn't come into the mix, I'd probably just hold on to him. But I've only got Kulusevski for this Spurs match against Ipswich, and I feel like it's one that a lot of people are going to target. A lot of people probably got Brennan Johnson. I think he's a better option than Kulusevski at the moment. I think Solanke is. I think Son is. So could I just swap Garnacho to a Spurs player and have a just as good fixture with possibly a better player? I think I probably could. So I think I'm going to move Garnacho. I had a look, and if I try and move him to Son, I'm 0.1 short. So I can't do that. And I would have liked to have done that. But I could move him to Solanke. I can afford that, and I'd get a 0.3 rise. I don't want to be too heavy on Spurs with that City fixture coming the week after, though. So this would probably be a 1 week punt with a view to take Solanke straight back out again the following week. But that's what I'm currently looking at. But quite honestly, I haven't decided. It's not been long since the Man United game ended. So they're my rough thoughts at the moment. Captaincy, I'm still completely undecided. I'm pretty sure I'm going to play it safe. Obviously, bringing Solanke in, he's a decent option. But for me, it's probably going to be between Haaland and Salah. I like Salah having the home fixture. And obviously, he's in a little bit better form. I still think Haaland is a good pick against Brighton. So I think that captaincy is going to come down to the wire for me. I have to have a little bit more of a think. But currently, I've just left it on Mohamed Salah. I wouldn't be disappointed about doing that either. This would leave me 1.2 million in the bank. So I am starting to build towards having that flexibility to get Palmer back in a little bit later. That is everything for this episode. Join us on the Dream Team Tonic for our deadline stream, 12:30 till 1:30 on Saturday. And the latest episode of the Dream Team Tonic podcast is out now on YouTube and podcast platforms. So head over to that, watch that after this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.